Sir, I've spoken up for civil servants, students, teachers, social workers, nurses, and migrant workers in my budget speeches in this House in the past decade. This year's budget is a budget for all Singaporeans, where, as PM Lawrence Wong said, no one is left behind. In 2018, I said in this House that then Minister Lawrence is my favourite minister. I hope he remembers that I'm the first to say that. I'm glad he became Prime Minister. And like my favourite minister's 2025 budget for all Singaporeans, my speech today is also for all Singaporeans. I'm speaking up for everyone and asking for more time for everyone. I'm asking that we review our minimum entitlement of only 7 days of paid annual leave. I'm asking that we review a policy that we have not reviewed for 57 years. That is a long time to not improve a policy. Whether you're a consultant for an MNC, a cashier at a convenience store, a cleaner at a coffee shop, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. We all need time from work to rest, for our mental health, and for our loved ones. My father was a model employee who worked extremely hard for the company he worked for 42 years. He worked hard not just for his company, but also for his colleagues and his family. He looked forward to his retirement, where he could spend more time with his family and his grandchildren. My father never got to enjoy the fruits of his labour. He was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer when he was close to retirement. Our very first family holiday on a cruise was when my father was already dying. On the day that I decided I would take leave to spend time with my father when he was in the hospital, he passed away at the age of 67. He lost consciousness before I made it to the hospital, and so I never got a chance to say a proper goodbye. I made a mistake and took too many things for granted. I wish I could turn back time and have more time with Daddy. But I know this is impossible. 10 years on, I still live with regret. Regret truly is an incurable ache. There are many Singaporeans just like my father. They work hard their whole lives looking forward to more relaxing days with their loved ones, but they never make it there. We go through life preparing for another life that we will eventually get to enjoy. We forget that there only is one life, and everyday working is every day not being with the people we love most. This budget, it is the vouchers, grants, and financial goodies that will make the headlines. But I hope this budget we can give something even more precious: time. The time that annual leave gives us is important for all, and even more important for lower-income workers. In this speech, I will talk about how annual leave will help build a Singapore made for families and for our mental health, how annual leave is particularly important for the lower income, and how it is not a zero-sum trade-off against business costs, productivity, and competitiveness. First, let me talk about how annual leave can help build a Singapore made for families and for mental health. The minimum entitlement of 7 days of paid annual leave was introduced in 1968, before I was born, before PM Lawrence Wong was born too. It has been almost 60 years. Since then, our national priorities have shifted. We now focus more sharply than ever on families and on mental health. Last year, Prime Minister Lawrence Wong made clear that mental health and well-being is a key priority. He said, quote, "So let there be no doubt. The government is making mental health and well-being a key priority in our national agenda," unquote. Indeed, it is a key priority, and we've been talking about reducing burnt out, supporting couples on their fertility journeys, encouraging parent-child bonding, building family-friendly workplaces, encouraging a better work-life balance, supporting working caregivers, and increasing family support for the elderly. We can walk the talk on all these things we say are important by increasing the minimum annual leave entitlement. Annual leave is important and is needed for so many reasons. Couples undergoing fertility treatment often tap on their annual leave for the treatments. Parents who use up their 6 days of paid childcare leave have to use their annual leave when their child falls ill or during school closures. Many also take their annual leave to accompany elderly parents for their medical appointments. And let's not forget that annual leave is needed for rest and to spend time with your loved ones. It is for our well-being, the same well-being that PM Wong said is a key priority. Singaporeans are stressed, tired, and burnt out. The Cigna Healthcare Vitality Study 2023 found that stress levels in Singapore have increased steadily since 2021, with close to 9 in 10 people reporting they felt stressed that year, higher than the global average. And just last year, the 2024 Gallup State of Global Workplace Survey ranked Singapore third in Southeast Asia for daily workplace stresses. I could go on with many more studies, but I don't think we need any more data to prove how exhausted Singaporeans are. Take care of our parents, be there for our children, make more babies, work hard, but also take a break. Where can our people find the time? For so many of us struggling to stay on top of a never-ending to-do list, it would sure help to have more annual leave. This brings me to my next point. For lower-income workers, annual leave is not a luxury and may not even be about rest. For them, it is the only time they have to spend with their loved ones. In Nisun East, we have our Helping Hands program to uplift lower-income families. A strong component of the program is ensuring that they have family time, and I have seen firsthand how parents struggle to find time. When I try to bring children from lower-income families out for outings with their parents simply can't take leave. They don't have enough annual leave. One mother who is a cashier had only 7 days of annual leave and has to work weekends every week with only 1 day off on a weekday. Another father who is a cleaner also had 7 days of annual leave and just doesn't have time to spend with his children. Both of them are single parents, and their children need the precious time with their parents. The problem is not just anecdotal. The data tells us that lower-income workers tend to have fewer days of paid annual leave. In 2023, the average number of paid annual leave for full-time employees earning below $2,000 was 12 days, compared to 17 days for those earning between $2,000 and $4,999, and 21 days for those earning $5,000 and above. 12 days seem low, but even that will be a blessing for 8% of full-time employees, resident employees, who receive the very minimum of only 7 days. 8% is 18,800 employees. None of us sitting here would want to be part of that number. Perhaps you are thinking, maybe this 8% of workers get to work from home or benefit from some other flexible work arrangements or FWAs. After all, with regards to annual leave, the government has stressed that we are, quote, looking at this from a more holistic way by ensuring that there are avenues of other forms of work arrangements, including FWAs, unquote. Unfortunately, this is not the reality on the ground. Workers with the least amount of annual leave are also the ones least likely to benefit from FWAs. These workers are typically in frontline or labor-intensive jobs such as cleaners, cashiers, security guards, and service staff. FWAs are not a realistic alternative to having more annual leave for these workers. Our policies are supposed to ensure sufficient rest. 7 days, a week of rest from a year of back-breaking work. Is that a humane way to treat people? Our law seems to think so. It is our lower-income workers who are suffering the most from our annual leave policy. I hope we don't have to wait another 57 years to review this policy. My final point is that we do not need to lose productivity and competitiveness when we increase annual leave. Let me remind the House again that the minimum annual leave entitlement has not changed for almost 60 years. Our economic conditions and workforce have changed drastically in that period. It is high time for a review. SMS Co replied to me in 2021 that there were no plans to review the annual leave entitlement. After a very good 3 years of break and no nagging SMS Co, I asked again in 2024, and SMS Co replied to me again that there were still no plans to review the minimum annual leave entitlements. Business cost was a concern stated by SMS Co, and FWAs were again offered as an alternative to increasing annual leave. I agree with SMS Co that work-life balance and productivity can be addressed from multiple angles. I'm glad we have made progress on other areas such as FWAs, which I have fought hard for too. But for those who cannot access FWAs, increasing annual leave entitlement is one angle we should not rule out. By keeping minimal annual leave entitlement at 7 days for 57 years because we fear business costs and maybe losing productivity, we risk reinforcing the impression that well-being and productivity are trade-offs. This does not have to be the case. We do not lose out when we prioritize people. Instead, I hope we can send a clear message that only by prioritizing people can we grow sustainably and healthily as a nation. We are not less productive when we get more rest. Instead, I sincerely believe that a more well-rested workforce will be a more productive workforce. We are also not any less competitive than our neighbours by increasing the minimal annual leave entitlement. More than 160 countries already provide a higher minimum annual leave entitlement. I'm tempted to read out all 160 countries, but I know speaker will kill me. So let's just focus on the Asia-Pacific region to give you a sense of how far behind we are. These countries all have a higher minimum annual leave entitlement. Afghanistan, Armenia, Australia, Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Cambodia, East Timor, Fiji, Georgia, India, Indonesia, Japan, Kazakhstan, Kiribati, Kuwait, Kazakhstan again, Laos, Malaysia, Maldives, Marshall Islands, Mongolia, Myanmar, Nepal, New Zealand, Oman, Pakistan, Papua New Guinea, Qatar, Samoa, Saudi Arabia, Solomon Islands, South Korea, Sri Lanka, Syria, Tonga, United Arab Emirates, Uzbekistan, Vanuatu, Vietnam, Yemen. That was nice. All have a higher annual leave entitlement as compared to Singapore. Many of these countries also have a higher number of paid public holidays. We pride ourselves on having a highly skilled and professional workforce. Our competitive advantage is our expertise and skills. Surely we are not competitive only because our workers are willing to slog for more days and for longer hours than other countries. I know we're also concerned about business costs. I am too, and we should be. But when we consider that 90% of our workforce already have more than 7 days of annual leave, increasing this minimum entitlement will not significantly cost businesses much more. But for the individual worker, it is hugely significant as additional time for rest and for spending time with their loved ones. We took a supported, phased, and gradual approach when we doubled and mandated paternity leave entitlements. We believe it was the right thing to do for parents, and we work with businesses to ensure a smooth rollout. For annual leave, we can do the same and work closely with businesses every step of the way too. We should consult them, understand their concerns and challenges, and provide the support needed to successfully implement the increase. The business cost truly incurred is outweighed by the very clear message that well-being, mental health, family, and rest are equally important for all workers and not just some workers. In conclusion, sir, our people will always want to do their best. They can only do their best when they are well rested and have enough time for their loved ones. Importantly, the ability to rest and take care of our loved ones should not be a luxury. Our low-income workers deserve more days of annual leave. 2025 is MOM's 70th anniversary. It bears remembering that in 1955, MOM started as the Ministry of Labour and Welfare. Labour and welfare must go hand in hand. Our workers have worked incredibly hard. In this milestone year for MOM, I hope we can give equal weight to the goal of safeguarding workers' welfare by increasing our minimum annual leave entitlement. With my father, I lost time, which I will never be able to get back and recover. I don't want others to have the same regrets that I have. As the iconic Dolly Parton said, quote, "Never get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life," unquote. Many of us live as though we are rehearsing for a future life where we get to spend quality time with our loved ones. There is no real life other than the ones we're living now. Along with the handouts that we give to help Singaporeans with the cost of living, I sincerely hope that we will finally increase our minimum annual leave entitlement after 57 years to help Singaporeans have the time for living. So I support the budget.